Hey guys, it's Eclipse here, and today's World of Tanks console video we are looking at the top 5 tank destroyers at tier 10 in World of Tanks. So what are these tanks? Well, they are a mixture of both competitive and also fun as well, because yes, you can be the top 5 most broken and overpowered tanks, but they may not be that particularly fun in certain scenarios, and so you want a tank that's going to provide all kinds of fun, and also you're not going to get derped out of the game within the first minute because it's terrible. So here we go. First one being the FV4005. This is the tier 10 British tank destroyer. This obviously has the 183mm cannon, and that is what we're talking about in terms of fun. Yes, in some scenarios this thing is not as fun as some other tanks. That's just because it has absolutely no armor, and if we look at the armor model of the tank, you can see it literally has 14mm of armor. That means that even tier 1s to tier 3s are going to be able to actually pen you in this thing. You don't have armor, and so because you're so big and because artillery is in the game, and with its stupidly high alpha, then yes, you can get one shot by artillery. It doesn't happen all of the time, but certainly if artillery focuses you in one game, then you're not going to have too much fun. But what we do have in this thing is the ability to just absolutely demolish every single tank that you come up against. That's because it has 1450 alpha damage. It used to actually have 1850, but Wargaming decided that they'd actually nerf this. Yet there's still artillery in the game with a high alpha, but we won't talk about that. But yeah, this tank has stupidly high pen, so you've got 310mm of penetration on your standard round and 240mm on your premium round. Now, what's the difference between the two rounds? Well, the first round gets a armor piercing round, which basically can bounce, whereas the second round is a Hesh round, and that basically means that you can splash people, or if you do pen, you'll be dealing a lot more damage to your opponents with actually 300 more damage per shell. So that's actually really, really nice. So you have a 5.05 meter splash radius, but trust me, you don't splash people in this thing, and if you do, then you are a god at the game. As far as why this tank is in this list and why it is number 1, that is just because it is so fun to play, especially with the accuracy buffs that you've got with update 6.0 on World of Tanks. It means that you can basically have superb accuracy in a derp cannon at tier 10. So yes, I do have 0.34 accuracy with 2.7 second aim time in a tier 10 derp. It's kind of like the KV2 at tier 10, so if you are interested in a tank like that, then this one is 100% a tank for you. Has slightly lower hit points than some of the other tier 10 tank destroyers, and yes, you may not be able to consistently deal the damage out as much as you'd like to in a tank that we'll come up to next. The second tank on today's list is the Object 268 version 5, so if you've managed to pick this up for free from the season pass, or you're grinding towards it on the current objective as of the recording of this video, obviously if you are down in the line, this is a premium tank and you do have to pay for it unless you've got it free as part of the season where it came out. I think it was Action Heroes. So yeah, this tank is absolutely amazing in the game. It is a Object 268, but has the ability to actually turn its turret, which makes this thing infinitely better within the game. So basically, it's so much more situational. It's no longer as situational, I should say, so you can actually perform much better overall in your tank. It basically doesn't have any armor, so we're going to discount the armor on this tank. As you can see, we've only got, 120mm angled at the front, which basically means every single tank that comes up against you at tier 10 or tier 8 even is going to be able to penetrate you straight through the front of your hull armor, and your turret is also significantly weak as well. So don't go thinking you're going to bounce very much in this, and of course you've got that cupola at the top of the tank, which is slightly nasty when you're coming up against people. As far as the statistics of the vehicle, you've got really, really nice accuracy, bearing in mind I do have accuracy perks on this thing. and a really nice aim time. You do have also the ability to deal 850 alpha damage very, very quickly. You have a 16.92 second reload to deal 850, which basically means your DPM is almost 3000. Really, really good tank. Would 100% recommend it for those of you who don't already have it. You can deal so much damage, and you can also outspot opponents as well, which is something I think people don't necessarily take advantage of too much in this tank. Of course, you could swap out ventilation for something like a camo net, or you could alternatively swap to something like advanced reload, which allows you to swap between your HE rounds and your standard ammunition for absolutely free. So this tank is really, really fun one. It's definitely one of the best tank destroyers in the game, and I'm sure many of you, when the season finished and everyone got their hands on this thing, absolutely hated coming up against it, unless you're an artillery player, at which point you were probably loving it because the top of the tank is so weak. Other than that, we'll move on to the next one. Coming in at number 3, we have the Foch 155. This tank boasts quite a nice set of attributes. So not only do you have the looks of the tank, I think it looks pretty nice, and of course I think that with the addition of this main armament that you can get on the tank, which has the ability to choose between a 120mm cannon or a 155mm cannon with a 3-shot autoloader, with the first gun being the 155, or a 6-shot autoloader with the 120mm. Yes, you got that right, 600 or 6 shots of 400 alpha damage, meaning the grand total of alpha damage that you can put out in one clip is 2,400. And of course, with the 155mm, you have 850, 1700, so it's probably, 2,500, something like that. Yeah, this tank can output a ton of damage, although the alpha damage is actually 770, so I lie actually, you can't deal that much. But yeah, this tank has like 2,210 alpha damage with its clip, which is really, really good though. We won't, bat an eyelid towards that. I certainly think that, for me personally, for the consistent damage that you can provide, the 120mm 6-shot autoloader with super good accuracy, with really, really nice aim time, with great gun depression for a non-turreted tank destroyer at least, and it actually kind of works as well within the game. So not only is it 6 degrees of gun depression, but it's kind of effective gun depression is what I like to call it, because some tanks are just so long and so kind of awkward that you often don't get to the ability to use gun depression to the best of its ability. So because you're fairly low profile as well, it means that you can actually use some of the ridge lines and stuff to be able to kind of get a little bit hold down, stop people shooting the very bottom of your tank, which on the armor model is that kind of lower plate. It is fairly weak, but yeah, the whole tank is kind of weak, to be honest with you. You've got these big cupolas on top, these big like bull horns that can be penned very, very easily by people that know where to shoot, but often you can actually bounce rounds because if you angle or wiggle as you're going towards someone with your fully reloaded gun and you can deal 2,400 damage to them, then yeah, they can bounce a shot every now and again. And of course, you don't really bounce when you've got 257mm and you know where the weak points are, or additionally, what you can just do if you don't want to have to aim for weak points is just load premium ammunition, and you've got 325mm of penetration with your APCR rounds, which means that you can just go through the front of every single tank that you're coming up against. And so, yes, the Foch 155, 100% one I would use. Make sure that you put the camo net advanced optics and, of course, improved ventilation, or alternatively, you can swap out improved ventilation for something like traction system to get a bit more speed so that you don't get out-traversed maybe by light tanks. But to be honest, the traverse speed of this tank isn't too bad anyway, and so, yeah, I went with ventilation. But, of course, let me know what you think of the Foch 155. Do you think it's a good tank within the game? It's the one I'm trying to 3 mark soon. I think that'll be maybe my next tier 10 to 3 mark. Had some fantastic games in this thing, and yeah, it's one of those that at the end of the game, when you're 1 versus 5, I wouldn't discredit the Foch 155 from winning situations like that, and that can't really be said for too many tank destroyers at tier 10. And of course, it wouldn't be a top 5 video if we didn't put in this American turreted tank destroyer, the T110E4. This is the better of the two. Of course, you get the T110E3 or the T110E4. One offers the turret, which is this one, and one offers the hold down aspect, being the T110E3, where it's quite impenetrable if you get hold down. But for the majority of situations where that doesn't apply, the T110E4 is just the better of the two tanks. The armor model of the tank kind of works. I'm not going to say it's super good, because you do get penned in the cupola of this tank, as well as the lower plate, which is a big weak spot, as with all of the American tanks that kind of have this boat-shaped hole. Really good tank though. You can output damage very quickly. You've got a nice kind of aim time and accuracy when you put perks on. This tank, because I don't own it and I don't have any equipment on it, I have fully researched it, but I just don't have the tank purchased. Yeah, you can certainly put on equipment. That's going to bring down the aiming time and also the accuracy, which make this tank superb when you're coming into those close counter brawling encounters. You can kind of play it like a heavy tank with 850 alpha damage. The speed of the rounds are really nice, so when you want to load those premium rounds, then you have APCR. And also super high penetration rounds with 375mm of penetration, which is really nice. Certainly a tank that I would 100% be looking at getting next as one of the tier 10s that I need to get in my garage finally and give a go and play it. But yeah, I think that this tank is fantastic. And for those of you who haven't ground up the American tank destroyer line, I really do recommend it. The T30 was absolutely fun. It was such a nice tank to play. Really did enjoy this one, although it is kind of like a T29 at tier 9 with a 750 alpha damage gun, so kind of take that with a pinch of salt. Yes, it might be nice in tier 7 games where you're just trolling around with this 750 alpha damage gun that it gets, but for the other situations when you're coming up against tier 10, it's not so fun. T28 prot was a nice one. T25/2 was just the runt of the litter. It was absolute terrible. The Hellcat was broken. The T67 was equally as broken, and the MAA1 with the derp cannon was also broken. So yeah, for those of you interested in the T110E4, I would 100% recommend purchasing this tank and getting to the tank if possible with your free XP or whatever you're going to spend to be able to get there, whether you're just going to grind towards it or whether you're going to spend some money. Yeah, 100% do like the tank. Played it on a few different accounts, and yeah, do like the tank itself. And coming in at number 5, of course, it wouldn't be a top 5 without a German tank destroyer coming in. Now, yes, you have the Griller, yes, you have the Waffenträger E100, but there's no other tank quite like the Jagdpanzer E100. Is it necessarily broken, but does it offer some really fun gameplay from time to time? Then yeah, I think the Jagdpanzer E100 definitely does do that. I think the ability to actually bounce rounds and get hold down and use your armor when you can. Yes, it may not work if people load gold at your lower plate or load gold at the actual superstructure with high penetration alpha guns, basically. Yeah, I think that this tank is certainly one to look at. Is it necessarily super overpowered? No, not probably, but it can definitely give you some good kind of games, and with the high penetration of its premium rounds, 420, definitely means that you can go through some of those higher tier heavy tanks within the game very easily. It's got heat rounds, and they are infamous on modern tanks for just wrecking through the heavily armoured tanks within the game, even through the turret of things like the IS-7. Just doesn't really matter. It's like paper against this thing, and there's no kind of there's no wondering when you see the size of this gun. 1050 alpha damage on the tank, meaning that it is the second highest alpha damage TD in the game without firing HE rounds, which of course you can do if you want to have a bit of a derp. 1400 alpha with your HE rounds, which make this tank very fun to play. And yeah, I think the diversity and stuff that this tank offers, even though, you know, it may not be the most competitive or the most out there tank to be able to bring home the win if you're 1 versus 5, but yeah, I think this tank offers something that many of you will probably want to see within World of Tanks. So there we go. That is number 5. Of course, you could always look at things like the Waffle 100, but to be honest, since it got nerfed, I don't think this tank is particularly very good. Same with the Grilla. I think the Grilla is fun, but yeah, it's probably one of the more competitive tank destroyers at tier 10. But I don't know. It's not kind of my kind of playstyle. You have to play it quite passively. Can't go in at the front like the Jaegeru can, where you're just like, I don't care. I've just got this E100 hull as well as this high superstructure. Yeah, I think it's very, very interesting. But there we go. That is my top 5 tank destroyers at tier 10 in World of Tanks. So make sure to leave your comments. Do you think you would change any of these tank destroyers at tier 10 as far as the best ones? So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you want to check out more guides as to the best tanks at tier 10, then maybe you want to look on the channel for more of them. There are things like best heavy tanks in World of Tanks at tier 10. We've got a few different ones, and I'm sure that we've done a medium tank one there as well. We've got top 5 guides, and of course the playlist will be linked on screen right now as to the best tanks on World of Tanks playlist. So there we go. Hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, please hit that like button, and a big thank you for watching this far, and a big thank you to the channel members. Thanks very much, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.